Hi, I'm Catherine Costa from TrueNorthArts.com. I'm so glad that you are here. I invite you to join me each month around the new moon and the full moon because I share with you how I work with these lunar cycles. I check in at the new moon, setting intentions, revisiting intentions, and at the full moon, when things get really intense, you probably have felt that tension before. That's the time to look at what needs to be released, what's coming full circle. So at both of these checkpoints in the month, I create mandalas. In fact, here's the one I created at the last one, which was the new moon in Capricorn. This was really great because it was the beginning of the year, setting intentions, declaring it, making a plan, and we were working with the root chakra with that. So this here is an example of a manifesting mandala because I was really looking at intentions that revolve around changes that I want to see happen and things that I want to create in my life. So those are creating things. Today, this is a peek at today's one. Looks very different. Look at the colors on that. This one is for the full moon in Leo. And this one is a healing mandala. Now, you might look at the two of these and say, well, they look a lot alike. You know, they have a lot of the similar elements. But what's different is the intentions and what we're looking to, how we're going to work with the energies itself. So I will guide you along the way. So let's get started. Here's a closer look at my healing mandala for the full moon in Leo. You see that there are 4 gates, 4 different sides of this. Those are 4 entry points coming in. And greeting us at each of these gates is the symbol for Leo. So Leo is here, and in the corners you see the sun symbol. The ancient astrologers associated different planets and celestial bodies as ruling the different zodiac signs, and the sun rules Leo. And then at the very center, to help us with our healing and what's showing up at this time, is this Sacral Chakra. I will explain more about all of this. This is just a quick overview of what we're going to be covering today. I take the mandala and I put it on my altar. It's a sacred shelf here in my studio, and I'll show you what it looks like. And to further energize these intentions, I work with crystals. The featured crystal for today is the moonstone, and it is carved in the shape of a Merkabah. Now, for those of you who just are looking at those mandalas and you're thinking, Catherine, I cannot draw. There's no way I could draw that. I got you covered. I have designed stencils that you can use to quickly and easily draw these mandalas. In fact, I know how to draw mandalas. I've got a book called the Mandala Guidebook, but time is of the essence, and I use these stencils to quickly draw the basics of the design so we can spend, yes, when we are working on our mandalas, we are spending more time infusing it with our intentions, working with those healing intentions, and filling it with color and pattern and even words, and working with them and putting them on our altar. I just thought I'd jump in here and reassure that inner narrator. If it's piping up and saying, yeah, you can't do this, I'm here to tell that inner narrator to relax, chill out, because we've got this. Now, this full moon is extra intense because the moon, the sun, and Jupiter are all in the same degree in Leo. That's called a partile. So let's take a closer look at each of these elements, the moon, Sun, Jupiter, and Leo, each in turn, and then how they come together and what that dynamic is like. Starting with the full moon. Full moons are about completion. It's the end of the cycle. So the bright light of the full moon shines on our shadow selves. It shines on that aspect of ourselves, of things that we've probably been neglecting. There may be old wounds, old hurts, old disappointments, or maybe bad habits, unhealthy relationships that we've maybe been putting up with, we've been ignoring. But there's a part of us that is saying, no, we really need to be addressing this and letting this go. We need to release this. And that we can feel that energetically at the full moon with a lot of tension. Might feel a lot of emotional ups and downs with your emotions, right? Might be bouts of crying, some intensity, really moodiness can happen at this full moon. So when we take the time to be present with what is showing up for us. Really asking ourselves why we're having these emotions come up. What needs our attention? It opens us up for doing the healing work of letting go, surrendering it, and forgiving ourselves for how we may or may not have been tending this aspect in our lives. Now, when we talk about the cycles of the full moon and following the cycles, we may look at it from full moon to full moon and see what's come to completion. And we certainly check in with where we're at in the moment and say, hey, what needs my attention now, regardless of what happened last month. But I want to share with you something that's really interesting to start paying attention to. This cycle may be related to 6 months ago when you're in the same sign and it was the new moon. So for example, we are coming up to the full moon in Leo. 6 months ago, we had the new moon in Leo. And it's interesting, especially for me, my sun sign is in Leo. So I'm very energized with this moon. And magical things have happened. And I've got a fun story to share with you. And it involves this cute little mandala bag that I created. Oh, I had made this bag 5 years ago. And it's simply just a piece of cloth. What's neat with this piece of cloth is cut in a round circle. I often get gifts, unexpected blessings and surprises in my mailbox from viewers like you. And a person who was really into quilting sent me a couple pieces of fabric that I could work with. And this was one of them. And I had that fabric for years. And I went to do this project. And like a lot of my projects, I always often look to see what I already have so I don't have to buy anything. I love to recycle and reuse things. So I cut it up. And then on the bottom at the center of that circle, I painted this pattern. And you can see I put some little gems in there. Well, last year at the full moon of Leo, I am at my Jaguar Path training. This is a shamanic training. We would get together on weekends. We got together every month for 9 months, I think it was. I don't remember now, but it was monthly. And at a year ago, it was the full moon in Leo. And we were studying about and learning about how to work with crystals like this to do some healing work, some energetic healing work with crystals. So we were to bring a crystal to the weekend to use for our training. And we keep all of our tools in a bundle like this, a beautiful fabric. We've got my rattle. And this is called a mesa. And in it, I have a lot of healing stones in it. Well, I wanted to protect the crystal. I didn't want to just throw it in there. So I thought, oh, what can I put it in? And I remembered I had this and I hadn't used it for a long time. I've forgotten about it. So I found it in my cabinet of interesting trinkets and things. And so I went to put this in there. And when I opened it up, lo and behold, let me show you what I found in here. Let me show you what I had in here. There was this little red piece of paper that I had left a note about dreaming big. Look at that. And it is dated August 11th, 2018. New moon in Leo. I swear, you cannot make this stuff up. And it was a partial solar eclipse. And I wrote intentions, highest good of all. So on the back side, I wrote down my intentions that I was ready to join the circle of wisdom light bearers. I take my place in the realm of guides who teach the messages of love. I open the doors for others to awaken their creativity and tap into their wisdom. So be it. It is so be it. So that was my new moon intention, where I wanted to learn these things, learn to work with light and energy, learn about the wisdom traditions, so that way I can open up the door for others. I did not know that, what was that, 2018, that a couple of years, a year and a half later, that I would be at this shaman training, and I would have this with me at the full moon in Leo. So what I decided, I was so excited. as you can imagine, it's so magical, that I used my solar plexus chakra stencil, and I just traced the inside part of it on a piece of yellow cardstock that has an orange back. And so this was the full moon in Leo. Oh, that was actually the full moon Leo was in February 9th, 2020. Look at that. So it's not always in the same month that the moon happens in that sign. But here we go. And, and so I just wrote a note so I could remember that this was the weekend in Jaguar Path training, and we learned the tool of working with crystals to clear energy blocks, and how I found this. So this special bag is where I'm going to be putting something in there for today, or this moment at this full moon. I need to go back and put something in because of what happened last at the new moon in Leo, and also at the Lion's Gate. Those of you who've been following me know that I had done some very powerful manifesting work. I needed to pivot and start a new day job. And after I created that crystal grid, within 2 days, it was actually 1 day later, I heard from a recruiter. I'm now in that position, and it's a perfect fit. We all agree. They are so happy I'm there. I'm so happy I'm there. I'm getting paid, compensated very well for what I'm doing. And I'm so happy, so relieved, because it frees up the energy for me to keep doing this work. So I share this with you because I want you to start noticing the patterns. Right? We're at the beginning of this year. Let's take a look at what's showing up and looking back 6 months ago or a year ago or a year and a half ago and see what's going on. Now, I'm really curious, and I want you to check in with me. I really hope you will. Because the way we interact with each of these new moons and full moons is going to be different depending on our own personal chart and are the own signs that are active within us. So here's an example of where I have a lot of energy and enthusiasm, which I'm bringing to you that you can absorb and help you through this full moon, because my sun sign is Leo. This is where I feel my most Leo part, which is very jovial and fun and exciting. And so I'm curious to know when it is a new moon or a full moon that aligns with your sun sign. How does it show up for you? Now I'm going to give you another quick story about my husband because it's very different for him. I have noticed a pattern with him in the last year. He is Sagittarius. At the new moon of Sagittarius and at the full moon, probably not crazy that I'm sharing the story, but we got to do the truth telling. For him, Sagittarius is another fire sign. He and I are both fire signs. And he was like a volcano. And at these moments, he erupted. It was just to the point where he just like flew off the handle. And I happened to be the sacred observer both times and not take it personally, which is a huge life lesson for me. And here he is blowing up. And this last time I thought, oh my gosh, are we breaking up? I mean, is this it for us? And both of them were like, this is serious. And so it may be that at these markers for you, you have that emotional tension release, and it's an opportunity to say, hey, what have we been neglecting and ignoring, whether it's in our relationships with one another, with a family member or a friend or a colleague, or it might be how your relationship with money, maybe your relationship with your body, who knows? Only you know what, and in the work that we do in creating our art quiets things down so we can really be present and listen and have that sacred conversation. So follow the patterns, watch it, take note, have a little journal and just write some quick notes of what's showing up. It's fascinating, and I want to hear about it, all right? So Jupiter is aligning here with the full moon and the sun. And the quality of Jupiter is that it is a very big planet with a lot of energy. And what it does is it expands. It's known for being expansive. And it takes whatever we're focusing in and takes that energy and it expands it. The nature of Jupiter is that it's fun, it's jovial, it's playful. It's about bringing luck to a situation. But if we're focusing in on things that are fearful, that's what it's going to expand. So we always want to be careful when Jupiter's on the scene to really be aware of whatever where our thoughts are, our emotions are, and if they're going into a heavy place, shift that into a lighter experience, a more positive, uplifting experience, because we can take advantage of the energy of Jupiter to help us to expand on that. So Leo's a fire sign, and like Jupiter, it's a fun sign, very jovial, very playful, and has flair. Leos are also known for being highly creative, courageous, and confident. And the Leo asks you, what would feel fun? So at this full moon, what would feel fun? And that would help you to shift that energy. As I mentioned before, the sun rules Leo. Now, of all the qualities of the sun, the one piece of information I'm pulling out for us to pay attention to is that the energy of the sun lifts our spirit. So the sun asks you, what energizes you? Tapping into those things that give you energy will help you navigate the times when you're feeling the tension. Now let's bring all of these elements together and look at the dynamics that they create. The moon, the full moon, and the sun together create a lot of tension. We feel that emotionally often, and the sun has very strong energy. Add to that Jupiter, which is that expansive quality that expands wherever we're putting our attention on, and the energy it is expanding on that. Leo is about confidence, courage, and creativity. So if we're feeling a lot of tension around these areas, that may show up as feeling creatively stifled. There may be moodiness. There can be doubts and a lack of confidence in our abilities. We may have limiting beliefs around our ability to manifest our dreams. The chakra that I recommend working with at this time is the second energy center, which is known as the Sacral Chakra. It's a water element. All water elements relate to our emotional body, how we are feeling. This energy center is connected to the moon. The moon is associated with the emotional body, and we see that with how the moon impacts the tides, right, in the oceans. And in virtue of that, we're made mostly of water, and it can impact the fluctuations within the water element within us. And that gets expressed through our emotions. The sacral chakra really aligns with the aspect of Leo that revolves around creativity. It is the seat of our creativity. So here's how it can look in you if your sacral chakra is not balanced. You may find it's difficult to express your feelings, maybe feeling emotional ups and downs, easily emotionally hijacked. Your creativity may be stifled. You may have issues around money and the ability to create abundance. Now, when this chakra is balanced, you're going to see it in people who radiate a warmth, a playfulness, and a good humor. Someone who can express feelings in healthy ways. There's a healthy relationship with money, a healthy relationship with that self-confidence in one's ability to use their gifts and talents to create abundance in their life, to realize their dreams. People who have a healthy, well-balanced sacral chakra are highly creative. So if you are looking to have more of this in your life, this is the chakra to work with. My favorite way of working with chakras is to create mandala art. And here you can see the example of the full moon in Leo, Healing Mandala, where we've got the symbols of Leo, the sun, and the sacral chakra. As you work on creating your mandala, you're infusing it with your intentions. You're showing up to really discern what it is that you're ready to let go of at this moment, to surrender it, to connect with your inner wise self to know what you need at this time, and also to open up to forgiving yourself for anything you may have done in the past, and also looking to connect with that higher power and giving it up, giving it over, knowing that you're not alone on this journey. After I create it, I like to cut them out and put them on my altar and energize them with a crystal. I'll talk about the featured crystal in a moment. And then I write an affirmation to support me that I carry with me until the next new moon. And to draw this mandala, I use these stencils that I designed that you can purchase at StencilGirl Products. And there's a link to StencilGirl Products in the description below. You'll see we use the 4 gates mandala, the Sacral Chakra stencil. There is the zodiac chart, and at the bottom of it have the symbols. Those are called glyphs for each of those 12 zodiac signs. And I circled the one for Leo. And then I circled the one on the celestial bodies, which is the sun. I start by tracing the outer design using that 4 gates mandala. You see that there are 3 pathways that you can choose from. You can draw with, if you want to use that sacral chakra, you're going to want to pick either the outer path or, like what I'm doing here, the second path. So that way it fits within that circle. I mean, that within that outline, the circle of the chakra fits within that. And I just hold it down. Some people like to tape down with masking tape the stencil so it doesn't shift on you, but I just hold it in place. And then here's the sacral chakra. I pull that out and I just trace it. And I usually get the initial design traced up within 5 minutes. It's that quick. The central design is the traditional symbols for the chakra, and then I added an extra ring of lotus petals. This just adds to the design. Then I trace in and fill those gaps, and I added the symbols for Leo and the sun, and you can compare and contrast these two and see how they are, how they look traced and then filled in. I worked with watercolor paints on this one. All right, so after I paint it, I cut it out and I take some notes on the back side of it. And here you can see, I write that it's the full moon, the date, Leo, a couple of notes there. I wrote down that it was a Partile. We got the moon, sun, and Jupiter in the same degree. There's my affirmation there. I love the life that I'm creating and it's getting better at every moment. You are welcome to use that yourself or write your own. So one of the things that I'm looking to release is this notion that I have to do everything to make my dreams happen, that it's all on me. And I know that I'm divinely guided. And I wrote that on here. I said, I'm divinely guided and supported. It's a real important reminder for me. So I'm releasing the notion that it's all on me. I'm surrendering that. I'm asking that higher power to help me with the things that I want to manifest in my life. So I set some intentions at the new moon in Capricorn. And so I'm using this time to ask for guidance and support from my higher power, from the divine. I also wrote on here, if you're feeling creatively stifled, this one might speak to you. My creativity flows with ease and grace. To give me additional support with my intentions and working with the full moon in Leo, I reached for a moonstone, and here is a piece. It's in the shape of a Merkabah, and I have this placed at the center of my mandala. The moonstone is the stone of the goddess and the divine, and that's actually one of my intentions, is to really awaken that goddess within me, that divine feminine, in 2021. It's a stone of compassion and grace, and that helps us when we're feeling a lot of tension. It supports us in tuning into our emotional bodies and helps to relieve the moodiness and bringing calmness, especially when it's been triggered by lunar cycles. Bringing your attention to the diagram on the right on this slide, we see the Merkabah, made up of a star tetrahedron. We've got the downward pointing triangles, the upward pointing triangles. This is also known as a stellated octahedron, the 8-pointed star. And if you were to trace those points on the outside, it's really a 3-dimensional version of the hexagram. The word itself, Merkabah, breaks down. Mer means light, Ka means spirit, and Ba refers to body. So this symbol brings together our body and our spirit. It balances it, and in that balancing, it's surrounded in light. So it's seen as the downward pointing triangle, that's that yin element, is rotating in one direction. The upward pointing triangle is the yang element, and that is rotating in a different direction, and is thought that it can bring balance and a stillness when they're perfectly moving in an equal measure. All right, so let's take a here. I'm going to show you this. So on one side, it looks like an X, or if you tilted it like a cross. That's really an interesting symbol of itself because it has that element of 4. We talked about that at the new moon of Capricorn. That's that root chakra. But really what we're looking at is the triangle here. The triangle, you got the downward pointing triangle, you got the upward pointing triangle. I guess, you know what, if you think about it, so we're talking about how, we've got the upward pointing triangle, the downward pointing triangle, and when you look at it at a different angle, we see that grounding element. So when they're balanced, it really does have that grounding element. Wow. Which then, this whole thing energetically, if it truly has that energetic effect, because it is so balanced, creating that light body around us. Now know that when we're doing our own healing work, and we get that energy, whether it's through this, object that we've created and we're feeling it, but then we're feeling it and then we're transmitting it as well. So those around us, when we do our healing work, it helps them. They feel the effects of it. I know how sensitive my husband is with me, and he loves it when I'm doing my healing work because he's like, oh my gosh, he feels better. It raises his vibration too. We see that upward pointing triangle and downward pointing triangle depicted in the heart chakra. So this really is heart opening. We also see that in the Sri yantra, which has multiple downward pointing triangles and upward pointing triangles. That's the mother of all yantras. We'll talk about that sometime. But for now, I wanted to introduce you to the Merkabah, and so you can go and look at that and decide which one you want to add to your healing mandalas. Thanks. More magical things happening here. I love to work with oracle cards and tarot. Back when I selected a card for the new moon of Capricorn, I also, being the planner and wanting to keep on schedule with things, I picked a tarot card for this full moon in Leo. And I'm working with this tarot deck right now. Is the Wild Unknown Tarot. This is the beautiful guidebook that goes with it. Kim Kranz is the designer of this. And I tell you, I just shuffled the cards, and what I asked was what message would support all of us at this full moon in Leo. You're not going to believe it. This is the card that I got. Look, there's a lion on it. Seriously, you can't make this up. I really did not flip through and say which one would I consciously pick. This is the card that I would pick, and I did so intuitively. I did so from just shuffling it and grabbing it. It's like a magic trick. You see magicians do it. Well, I guess I have that. It's not I guess. It's evidence that I have it. So let's look at this. I did not read this until yesterday when I started working on this video. Let me tell you. By the way, you see that there is a symbol on the forehead. It's the infinity symbol. One thing I do, I pick a word at the beginning of the year that is my overarching theme for the year. I don't limit myself to just that one word, but that's really my overarching thing that I'm paying attention to and exploring. The other thing I do is I pick a symbol. Last year in 2020, that symbol was the infinity symbol. And so I love it whenever I see it come up. And my words and my symbols, they're not just limited to that year. It's just the year that I get to know those words and symbols better, and then they carry with me. So I have a whole collection of words and symbols that become part of my lexicography. If you're interested in doing a workshop with me about words and symbols and creating your own personal lexicon, leave a comment below, and maybe I'll design something, just kind of an afternoon of looking at that and exploring it and sharing how I work with it. All right, so where am I? Here we go. Ready for this? It's common to think of this card as the roaring, devouring side of the lion. But look again, the strength card that's suggested in this card is a much deeper force that's found within. The lion represents our most patient, composed self. He's a master of focus, compassion, and self-control. When this card comes up, you're in need of harnessing this power for yourself. All the courage you need can be found in the muscle known as the heart. How cool is that? Thank you for joining me today to look at the full moon in Leo and how to work with that energies, creating healing mandalas. I would love to see what you're creating and invite you to join me over on my private Facebook group called The Oasis. If you're not a member, there are links to how to join in the description below. Also, if you're finding that you could use some extra support with your visioning process and with that release and the surrender and letting go, coming up here very quickly on Saturday, January 30th, I am facilitating a live workshop online. It's an afternoon where I share with you my practice of creating vision journals. And even if you're not interested in working in the journal format like that, you can certainly be creating your chakra art in that time. And you can see pictured back there is a stack of my journals. It is Sunday, January 24th at 11 o'clock in the Facebook group. I'm showing what my journals look like on the inside and what I use about it and answering questions. I am going live. If you happen to catch us after the fact and you join the Oasis, you can certainly watch that recording. Just bringing us back to the invitation to join me for that Intro to Vision Journal workshop, I am leading a very powerful soul journey guided meditation. And in that meditation, there's a part of it that we look at what is bubbling up for us and we need to release so we can do that energy work. It's extremely powerful. That frees up energy for then saying, hey, what is it that I want to set my intentions on, and put that out there, what you want to invite into your life. So we do that manifesting work. At that workshop, I explain the art and science of manifesting. So if you're interested in work with me in the future, I'm going to be having and hosting events at each of the equinoxes and the solstices. This workshop is a requirement. It's a prerequisite for doing those because I lay the foundation of understanding how we work with this manifesting energy, the art and the science of it. And I want everyone to understand that moving forward. So each of the other ones, we're going to build on this knowledge. So if you can't attend live and you're seeing this video now and you're like, oh my gosh, I want this, know that you can enroll in that at any time and access the recordings, get that information. You can also do that meditation on your own, listening to it, and do that manifesting work and the healing work guided by me. As always, if you've got any questions, I encourage you to reach out, leaving comments or sending me an email, subscribing to my newsletter, leaving me comments over in the Facebook group. I love to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you each month at the new moon and the full moon. I am Catherine Costa, your instigator of soulful and creative living.